How's it going, everybody? This is Jason Ostrowski, and welcome to another edition of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. Today, I am very excited to welcome Kevin McGillicuddy, trainer in our educational department, associate broker, and team leader out of our Society Hill office. Earlier this year, Kevin spent a little over 4 months hiking the Appalachian Trail. From snowy March until the heat of July, Kevin trekked all 2,190 miles of the trail, stretching from Georgia all the way to Maine. To put that into perspective, that's about 5 million steps, crossing 14 states, and climbing the equivalent elevation of Mount Everest more than a dozen times. In today's episode, we're diving deep into what Kevin learned in those 4 months immersed in the wilderness, how he persevered through his toughest days, what the solitude and challenges taught him, and how those lessons translate back into his real estate business and general outlook on life. So be prepared to lace up those metaphorical hiking boots, because today we're heading deep into the wilderness with my guest, Kevin McGillicuddy. My special guest today is the man with the best beard in the business, Kevin McGillicuddy, trainer with our educational department and sales associate with Fox Roach Realtors out of our Society Hill office. And he is back. If you haven't heard or didn't have the opportunity to listen to Kevin's amazing interview with Margie Venturi this past week on the latest installment of our Live Well series, then you're in for a treat today, because Kevin has made his long-awaited return from the wilderness and hiking the entire distance of the Appalachian Trail from Georgia all the way to Maine. Good God, that's a long way. And he's back in the land of technology to share his story on the pod today. So, Kevin, it's so great to see you back and to do this with you today. How are your feet, by the way? How's your back holding up? Do you need help getting out of a chair at this point, or how you doing?
I've had a little bit of time to be acclimated back, but yeah, that question in mid-July would have been right on point. It's amazing. It's amazing when you have momentum, how much you can just roll with it. But as soon as you stop, you're like, ow, I'm feeling the feet were swollen. I had, hips were like screaming at me.
And I know you're crazy in shape. So that's actually the first thing I was going to ask you. Like, how long did you have to convalesce after all this took place to kind of feel yourself again?
I was lucky. I didn't have anything to really, like I wasn't going to be moving or anything like that. I was just getting back to hometown Philly and more or less being myself. I did have a week at the beach to just kind of relax, but I'd say it took about a month to really feel like I'd arrived physically back home.
I could totally get that. And I actually wanted to start off by telling a quick story, because we know each other a little bit. But one thing that always stuck with me about you, so back when Patty O'Harrick was still the educational department head, every year she would have a breakfast at her place for the educational team out in Perkiomenville. And that's a long way away from my house. You're in the city, and it's even further for you. And I remember getting there, and I think at the time I got there before you, and somebody asked, "Where's Kevin?" And you were cycling from your house in the city.
That's right.
To Patty's house. And I said, "This guy's insane. This guy's nuts to be doing that."
There's a trail that goes right there. Like,
I'm like,
not even a question.
I'm like, more power to him for doing that. And that always stuck with me. I'm like, this guy is dedicated to what he's doing. So I want to know, what motivates you to do things like what you just did? And I know this is not the only thing that you've done. I know you've biked across countries and from coast to coast. What motivates you to do these kind of things?
Oh, man. So I think for me, I get these questions in my head. Is that possible? Can I do that? And of course, today you can just read on the internet and people have done it, right? I mean, there's almost nothing I could come up with that is absolutely novel. But, in my circle of friends or, just, I don't know. I like to push myself. It's just one of those things that I get an idea in my head and I'll just roll with it. And this one, the Appalachian Trail, was actually something that I had thought about for maybe 10 years. I really, something like, oh, that's something interesting. I should do that. I want to do that. Maybe next year I'll do that. And I kept saying that, maybe next year, maybe next year. And you can live your whole life saying maybe next year. You know what I mean? Like at a certain point, I just had to put a date on it and an expiration date and tie it in with something. So I decided, I had a big birthday coming up and I decided this is the year because I don't know how much longer I can push this off. I'm a healthy person. I don't have anything, knock on wood and all that. But, you just you're not guaranteed tomorrow. Right. And I just really wanted to make sure that this would be a journey that I could physically do.
It's amazing to kind of check these things off on your list, the things that you're doing. I mean, do you continually get an itch that needs to be scratched in that direction, right? Like the bigger the challenge, like the more I want to take it on.
I feel like there's a cycle for these big ones, and it's maybe every 8-9 years. So you alluded to the last big thing that I did that was an endurance type activity was cycling from Philadelphia to Seattle, but in Canada. And so a very circuitous route to do that. And, it was a lot of fun. But again, that was a trip I did pretty much by myself. I looked around and nobody was interested. And yeah. And I feel like my idea of a vacation is everyone else's nightmare. And that sort of...
Yeah, one thing I said is like some people go to the shore, other people they might take a cruise, some people like to be on a beach in the Caribbean. You like to be by yourself for thousands of miles at a time. I don't know what that says about the rest of society in your mind, but that's the kind of thing you're into.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I do sort of it's like a pent up demand thing too, right? So it'll be like, thinking about doing it for a couple months, years, and then, go ahead and decide to go forward. So
it reaches a point of critical mass for you, So you did almost 2,200 miles on your journey, if I remember correctly, and that is just to put that in perspective. That is like getting in your car in Philly right now and driving straight west until you hit the center of Utah.
Wow.
That's how far I mapped that out. That's how far that is. So only instead of your car, you're on foot with hills and mountains and some danger, I might add, to navigate through on your entire journey. And that's pretty incredible. And does it seem at all surreal to you that you've accomplished such an amazing feat? And what's that feeling like when you complete something like that? What is that feeling that you feel?
At times it really did feel like I was in a movie of my own life, a very strange version of my life, right? Because you're not home and you're not with your loved ones and all that. So it's a very interesting, it's definitely an interesting experience in that regard. You try not to focus on how much of the road is ahead. Although, that going into it, of course. Some of my biggest thoughts starting this were like, oh, hey, there's a spot of the trail where there are no options to resupply for 100 miles, right? So they call this the 100-mile wilderness. And that really, I felt like that really was in my head as one of the hardest points. And when I got there, it wasn't all that, I made it this big thing in my head, but, it was something I breezed through it in like 3.5 days. And I had built it up to be this great big, hurdle, but I don't know. Did I answer your question? I feel like I went in another direction.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I told you, I do some hiking. We enjoy being in the mountains a lot, but sometimes we stay in places where now coming from Philly, it's even worse for you. I'm in the suburbs, but when you don't have that light pollution, and you are in places that you had said you don't have like either food sources or you're out in the wilderness with nobody around you for miles and miles and miles, I get panicky because it's such a strange feeling to be in like total darkness and nobody's there to save you. Like you're on your own. How do you deal with that? Like I know like you just get over it and you get, I guess, used to it. But for me, there is a true sense of panic that I feel when I'm in those situations.
Well, first of all, I should say it's a beautiful trail, right? So you have that going for you. There you're not, I mean, although I started this journey alone, you do meet people on trail. And I ended up creating what we call Tramily, Trail Family.
Hmm.
Uh, there were four of us in total. And, there were certainly days when I was alone. Like there were certainly days where I didn't see a single person the whole day. Um, and I was certainly okay with that. There are weird sounds at night. A fox screaming in the woods sounds like a woman
Yes.
in distress. And that one, if you don't know it, you can make the hair on the back of your neck stand 90 degrees. The owls have their time, and I like all of that. But there were big, you could hear something creeping in the brush, like, in the bush, like at night. And it's just kind of like, I don't know what that is. And I probably won't ever know, hopefully.
Oh
I
my
don't want, whatever it is, I don't want to see it.
You have a lot more courage than I do, my friend. I'll tell you that much. The fox scream was new to me when I moved to where I currently live. It is the most blood curdling thing that
It sounds
I
like,
thought someone was murdering
someone
a
that needs
small
help.
child. Yeah, yeah. It was real.
Horrible.
It's really horrible. So, you strike me as someone who is disciplined and dedicated and to the task at hand that's in front of you. So, do you find that same drive and dedication for your business that you do when you're trekking, across the Appalachian Trail or you're biking across the country? Are you disciplined and dedicated with everything that you do?
There are certainly elements of overlap. I mean, it's a durable characteristic, right? It's something that it, I mean, when a client says they want to do something and they have this certain goal, I'm like, thrashing around doing whatever I can to make that happen. Um, and yeah, I would say there's a ton of crossover there.
And I would ask that question because a lot of times when we're in our business, it can be chaos, right? And I'm thinking, if I want someone to represent, I truly mean this, that if I was looking to purchase a property, I would want somebody like yourself who is disciplined. I'm sure you're organized and you have everything kind of mapped out. And I could see that spilling over into your business. So I just wanted to get your take on kind of what you do to have the same mindset in real estate.
Well, it's funny because I have checklists. It goes both ways, right? I have checklists in my business. Like, when something goes under contract, you do this stuff, like it's the system, right? Repeatable systems. And when I was preparing for this hike, it was the same kind of thing. Like, what is the gear I'm going to bring? What are the pinch points on the trail? What are the certain elements that I need to be prepared for it? I mean, don't forget, I started in March when it was, there was snow. I mean, we were at altitude, and finished in July. So you're packing for everything initially. Ultimately, you do start sending things home because hey, I don't need a winter coat anymore at a certain point.
Yeah. Well, I want to get into a little bit about what you're packing. Specifically, I know you're a vegan. You've been a vegan for 25 years, is it?
Years.
And
Y2K.
I'm vegetarian. So I know just how difficult that could be, especially when you're out in the middle of nowhere, right? So what did your diet consist of when you were on the trail, number one? And how did you manage the simple things that we may take for granted being in civilization every day? Like how, just it could be simple things like you had talked about with Margie about packing a banana and how many grams the banana weighs. And do you want to trek that across the Appalachian Trail with you? Like talk about just something simple that maybe you had to deal with that we would never even think of, doing what you were doing.
Yeah, when it is down to the gram. So we talk about preparing for the trail. You tend to pack your fears. It's an interesting concept, right? But when I took all the gear I was bringing, I put it on a spreadsheet, weighed everything with a kitchen scale down to the gram, and really thought about it. And actually, I took that list and put it in an AI chat and had it analyzed, right? And there were interesting things that I didn't see there, like, hey, you're bringing a little bit more clothes than I would expect, or this sort of thing. And the things that I really felt like I was overpacking were organization elements. So like bags to put things in,
Hmm.
and all that stuff adds up when you think about all the little bags, and winter clothes. Things I was short on were probably socks. I started the trail with 2 pairs of socks, thinking that would be enough, and it really isn't. But the things that, I would say would be taken for granted would be, water, right? There is water on trail.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't drink it right out of the stream without filtering it. Right. So people don't always think about that, or they think you carry all your water with you. No, water is one of the hairiest. Hopefully it's not hairy. Water is one of the heaviest things you can carry. And, a pound, what is it, 9 pounds per gallon? And you're probably using about a gallon of water a day. So that adds up, right? And so you have very efficient filter to take care of that, and some skills to actually find the water. Some of the water's just flowing across the trail. It's easy, but there are streams you don't want to tap, right? If it goes by an industrial area, bad news. Then those will have signs on them. If it goes by a farm, again, bad news. So you're kind of looking for things that are bubbling up from the source. The smaller, the better. That's something that people don't always think about. So, and I think the other one that comes to mind is, to the veganism thing, there were so many opportunities for free food on the trail, at almost every trailhead. So think about a major road crossing. There's a little parking lot, people will start doing a section of the Appalachian Trail from that point. As someone hiking through, there are a lot of people that will set up like a little table and give away food and snacks and that sort of thing. And some of them, I mean, I would say all of them were generous, but some of them had a full spread, like you were walking into a bodega or something like that. And some of them actually had a clue and knew what vegetarian people would want. And Pop-Tarts are not by nature vegan, unless they're unfrosted. And those are the least appealing ones. So no one ever buys them. But every once in a while you'd run into someone who's giving them away. And I was like, this is great. Thank you so much. You know what I'm looking for, but it wasn't glamorous. Food is not glamorous on trail. We were mostly looking for calories, and it's not a diet that I think someone should do for, any length of time more than you have to. I think probably 4,000 calories, 5,000 calories a day of effort. And, you're eating whatever you can find. And, if it was candy, so be it. If it was nut butter and you're putting it in a tortilla, so be it. The luxury of having fresh fruit and vegetables is something that, you don't really have on trail. And whenever we went into little towns, I would, pack some of that out.
It's so fascinating to me. Like that's the kind of stuff that, you talk about being near a farm, being near an industrial area, like knowing these things, right? I feel like a lot of people can get themselves in trouble very quickly on the trail by doing that kind of stuff. And as far as diet goes, one overarching theme that I felt like when I was listening to you and Margie was the kindness of others. And really kind of sharing in the experience, because it's almost like a race, right? You and I were talking about how, running a half marathon, running, the Broad Street run. There are people along the way at water stations. There's people cheering you on, people sharing in the experience. And that's one of the coolest parts or aspects of the entire thing. So I would think it probably was much like that for you as well, right? With some of these people that you met along the way and experienced this with.
Oh, absolutely. And many of them are hikers. Maybe they did the trail last year, or maybe they, want to do it in the future. They've done sections. Honestly, on my way home, I was thinking about doing some trail magic, and I came so close to doing it, and I said, you know what, I just really should go home. I could do it next summer. I could do it next month.
I think you were due after over 4 months of being away.
Yeah, but they call them trail angels, and sometimes they'll just have the whole back of their car open with a cooler of drinks, or sometimes they're just, people leave boxes with stuff in them, like um, a secure box that animals can't open. But they'll have a sign like, take anything you want, that kind of thing. And there are landmark trail angels that people look forward to almost the whole trail, like the northern cookie lady and the southern cookie lady. They they make
Sounds
cookies
amazing.
all season. They weren't vegan, but but she made a really nice hibiscus lemonade kind of thing too. So I was appreciating that. She had her hammock available. It was a really nice afternoon, honestly.
That's really cool. And so I want to get a little existential with you. So being that we're talking about all this, let's talk about life in general. Like, what did you learn life lesson wise in your time away? Is there something that you really took away that maybe shifted your perspective on life? Maybe not, maybe so. If so, how did that affect you and kind of your outlook and mindset moving forward?
Well, one of the things that I did preparing for this trail, I think a lot of people do this. I might not be alone, but I really thought about like, if I'm really on my own here, like what do I need to bring? And you do really want to be prepared for yourself in case anything happens. But one of the things that I did learn is that self-reliance can also include other people, right? So once I had this trail family, we really were helping each other to the finish line, quite honestly. And it's something that I didn't anticipate happening. I certainly didn't leave thinking that would happen. But if I had a week where I had strained, so I don't even know what they call these muscles, but it's like in your rib cage,
Like your obliques kind of area.
like that. I'd strained that from certain movement I was doing with the pack, and I didn't even have to ask. I was just, hey guys, I'm really hurting here, and they're like, offload, I'll take 5 pounds. They took probably 15 pounds off my pack, which was a huge difference. It doesn't sound like that, but it makes a big difference over the course of a day, and especially if you're trying to be kinder to your body to recover from an injury while moving, right? So that we did stuff like that for each other continually, right? You're out, you need more food, sure, I got extra. We'll find something. It'll all work out.
I mean, it's just, it's almost like, sometimes when you're watching the news, you had talked about being away from, say, politics or whatever, and getting out there and seeing kind of what you sharing with another group of people and the caring nature of humanity, right? When you're up against something like this, and it's a big feat, and you're doing it together. And I would seem to think that would bring you closer together to these people, and obviously maybe restore faith in some ways. Maybe it has left you prior to leaving. I can envision that from what you were saying. And that's why I wanted to ask you, just life in general seems to change when you're away for that long. You come back and it just feels a little bit different. Like you said, it took you about a month to acclimate back. I'm sure not only physically, but mentally as well. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I mean, the mental adjustments are something that are quite interesting too. Like the first time I was really back in a car, it's like, wow, I'm going so fast, right? Not just the speed, but like just the ability to just pass a convenience store and say, I'll get the next one, and the next one's there in like 10 minutes. And I did walk into some of these places and I'm just like, I don't really need anything, but should I, but I've been in this mindset for 4 months of, oh wow, this is my chance. Like, got to stock up. I still look around when I'm in public. I'm still looking around at power outlets for phone charging. I'm like, I don't need that.
It's amazing. It reminds me of the stories that you would hear about people's parents who lived during the Great Depression, and they went without, right? And there was always a lack of this, a lack of that. They never had this during that time period. And so they tended to save everything that they came across just in
Yeah.
case.
Oh yeah.
And
My grandmother had a whole drawer, not a whole drawer, but a big section of her drawer was like rubber bands and twist
yes,
tie.
same with
You don't need,
mine. Same with mine.
you
She
don't
always
need all
wore the
these
rubber
things.
bands. Yeah,
Need
yeah.
like five of them. Like
Yeah, that's so funny. So let's talk about business then.
yeah, sure.
And your take. What's the crossover for you being out on the trail that you now can apply to your business? Is there any crossover? Like how do
Sure.
you feel? Those takeaways from that perspective. I don't know if you thought about business while you were away and how you can apply some of these lessons that you're learning to your business.
Well, as much as you try to unplug, right, there are still people that don't know your way that reach out. So I was definitely checking messages occasionally, but there were, this the phone was off most of the time, honestly, and I did have an autoresponder on my email. Radical self-reliance in your business, right?
Hmm.
Doesn't mean you're doing everything yourself. It doesn't have to mean you're doing everything yourself, right? So maybe you're partnering with people, building a team. Maybe you're focusing on the parts of your business that are most exciting to you and outsourcing the other parts and really focusing on what you're good at. Um, I think that, having, you don't have to walk 2,000 miles in order to get that lesson. You can just change a few things in your environment and just sort of think about, what are the things I actually want to do in this environment with, the people that I like working for, my clients, right? And how can I make this a better experience for both of us? And I think that's, really where I would take that lesson from the trail. Working interdependently, right? So, you each have your goals, you're supporting each other. And I think if you can actually, set up something like that, you'll both achieve more.
Well, speaking of clients, since you probably came across many, scenic vistas and beautiful views, did you see any nice lots along the trail that would be a good fit for a client currently on your warm list?
I saw, well, the funny thing is, whenever I would get to a cute town that was right on trail, I was looking at the real estate prices. And it was kind of amazing, a couple acres with water service and, not that expensive based on, my Philly thinking, my Philly brain. But, I don't have any immediate plans to buy real estate. I don't have anyone really looking, in those areas that I know of.
I was just gonna say, you might be doing a little work to get, say, like a public septic line to one of these lots on the trails. That might cost you a cool couple of mil,
It may
to
not just be,
run one of
it
those
may not
lots.
even be possible in some of these
Yeah,
places, going to do on-site,
no,
on-site.
I'm totally joking.
Yeah.
So all right, so I want to know, what did you enjoy the most about your journey?
I really enjoyed the the feeling of awe I would get at some of these amazing sites, these landmarks that, they're visited frequently, and I think more and more with internet and sharing and that sort of thing. But majority of people don't actually, you know, majority of people don't actually make it out there to see them in person. So some of those overlooks, some of those views, the waterfalls, the nature, the animals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can
The,
imagine.
the respect that the respect that the creatures, deserve from you. You're in front of and vulnerable to snakes and bears. And, I saw those things in a way that was awe striking. And that's not really something you get from a video or reading a book. You
It's
have to
it's the true reverence of nature is kind of how what I would express it. Is that a fair statement?
care.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine just having seen some of the stuff, like, like I said, I go hiking, I do some of this stuff, not to your extent, but I think for me, that's why I do it, is to not only to have a sense of accomplishment to do it, but also, being out there in nature and seeing some of this stuff is just, like you said, it's all inspiring. And it leaves you speechless in many cases.
Yeah. And I don't want to sugarcoat it. There were challenging times too. But some of that, there's beauty in that too, right? I mean, some of these mud puddles were a couple feet deep, and if you misstep, it's gonna feel like quicksand. I stuck my pole in there to just sort of see like how far does that go, and it like was it 2 feet of travel? That's crazy.
That's yeah.
But even though that's an element that could potentially trip you up, it's certainly that's awe-inspiring in its own way too, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so, all right, so let me follow that up. You talked about what you enjoyed the most. What did you enjoy the least about your journey?
I think being back really highlights some of the things that were challenging for me, right? So uh, the very limited diet at times was challenging. That being back in Philly and being able to just walk to the corner store and get kind of anything. I have three huge grocery stores within walking distance of where I live. So that it's certainly not a food desert like being in some of these small towns where you have the Dollar General, or being in the woods where you really are. I'm not eating acorns. Let's put it that way. So that is certainly a challenge. And physically, I think there were times when I was aching. Like this was not a walk in the park. This was I think the real challenge is the elevations going up and down, and really the up I can do. The down, I was surprised how much that hurts. It uses different muscles that you don't really exercise typically. And shin splints, if you've ever had them, that was a one day, like a minute by minute, step by step sort of meditation on, I just need to get to the other side of this. So I had a couple of days that were like that, and it was very humbling.
That's nuts, man. I totally get it. Now, I know that you said that the biggest kind of, I don't know if danger is the right word, but the biggest thing that people deal with is Lyme disease. I have chronic Lyme disease. I've had it for 30 years. And that's one of the things that I think about when you're out there hiking on the trail. I'm like, I can't do that strictly from that point of view. And I know that you, unfortunately, trying to account for that, ended up poisoning yourself while you were out on the trail.
Wild story.
And can you just talk a little bit about that? Is that's a crazy story in itself, and you just kept going, which is
amazing. So the ticks are real. I think it was in Virginia, Pennsylvania. We saw. I mean, they were just on the blades of grass, like with their little arms, like waiting to get us, but. I had been treating my clothing with a chemical called permethrin, which is a limited use chemical. You're not supposed to use it on your skin. You're not supposed to use it. You can use it on dogs. You can use it on your equipment and your clothing. So I followed the instructions, or so I thought. I did it twice. I did it at the beginning of the trail, and I did it right outside of Harrisburg, so that area. And that second application in Harrisburg. It was just a rainy day, and the stuff was hanging on the porch, but it didn't really dry. This was a day when I was off trail, and I didn't think much of it. I hung it up inside, but it was a very, very humid and damp day. And the next couple days after that, it was just rain. Hiking in the rain for a couple days, trying to catch up with my friends because I wanted another day in Harrisburg. And they wanted to hit the trail. I get it. So, I'll catch up to you guys later. It'll be fine. And usually something like that, it would take me about a week to catch up with them. But I started feeling, day 2, started feeling super fatigued. It came on really quick, like a snap. And fatigued, like the amount of effort it would take to lift my feet was twice what you would normally do, and it didn't make sense to me, and I was very confused about it. I thought maybe I was having food poisoning or something. I didn't really know what was going on. I called my friends. I said, "Hey, we were planning to meet in town, but you should get your own room for, I'll get a different room." Please set that up for me. And, cause I think I'm sick. And I just, I had 7 miles to go and I was really hurting. Stomach was upset, everything, confusion, slow moving, but I just kept going. They were watching me on the maps, texting me encouragement. And, yeah, I didn't realize it was actually a poisoning event until I got to the hotel because I saw the rashes on my skin from all the contact points. And that's when it sunk in. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've been exposing myself to permethrin for probably 48 hours at that point. And it is a neurotoxin. Really, it's really something that, messes with you. So, yeah, once I started, took a shower and everything started to pick up from there. So it was, no lasting effects, but it was scary in a way that I never anticipated that.
That's wild. And the fact that you forged ahead, like you had said you had like 7 miles to go. I guess you don't really have a choice, right? You got it, like you have to get through it somehow, right?
The way back was much further.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it was the kind of thing where the closest road crossing. Think about that. The closest opportunity for you to interact with another human is either going to be on trail or it's going to be 7 miles ahead, where the road comes in and flag someone down. I don't know, but
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So let me ask you this because I always like to ask people when they go to places that I haven't been to yet. What was your favorite part of the trail and why?
Okay, so I had a had thought for almost the whole trail that I loved the Smokies. And they're great. So if you only have a chance to go to the Smoky Mountains and do that section of the trail, you'll love it. It's mossy, it's earthy, the trees are mature, and it's very well maintained and protected. However, uh, Maine is really where it's at. New Hampshire and Maine, there are just so many lakes and ponds and tree formations and boulders. The natural beauty there. This is land that probably has never. I mean, you felt like I might turn the corner and see a dinosaur. I mean, it looked that old, you know, untouched by logging or anything like that. It really is inspiring to be in that sort of environment. And yeah, so the 100-mile wilderness is one of the last sections of the Appalachian Trail before you get to the Mount Katahdin area. That and the White Mountains in New Hampshire, just very challenging, but also so beautiful.
I had so you're speaking first things first. I went to Maine for the first time a couple years ago. Fell in love. Absolutely beautiful state. The White Mountains I've always wanted to go to. I haven't been there yet. To hear you say that makes me just want to go that much more. New England as a whole, I feel like is beautiful, but I can only guess, like you said, not many people are in that part of Maine and New Hampshire. So it is pristine, it is untouched, and I can totally see that being the case.
Yeah, yeah, it really was like a time machine, is what it felt like.
That's really cool. All right, so biggest question I have for you. You've been gone for 4+ months. Who covered for you while you were away? And did you pay them an hourly rate? Like, how did you work this out with your business? Like to be off.
Yeah.
I'm off for 4 hours and I'm in a panic. So you did 4 months. How do you deal with that business wise?
Okay, so one thing that is crucial to my formula is passive income, right? So I have rental income,
Okay.
and that is an important foundation for everything.
Well said.
Uh, Secondly, I have a team, a small team, and I think that any kind of leads that I got, I had two things that were supposed to close while I was away, and I got them as close as I could. We really wanted to close before I left, but it just didn't happen. So, someone on my team graciously, jumped on that and took it to the finish line. And then, there were people that would contact me not realizing I was away. And then those were referral opportunities, right? And in some cases, I have two clients that were so loyal. They said, you know what, we're just going to wait till you get back. Timing's not that. So, I mean, I guess, that's a beautiful thing. So that type of loyalty is rare. And of course, there are people that got postcards from me on trail. Like, I'm not there yet, but we're making progress.
That's really good. What an opportunity too to talk about someone that should value you. We talk about handwritten notes and the value that they have. I can't imagine getting a postcard from Kevin on the Appalachian Trail. I'd be your client for life, man.
Yeah, I mean, actually, there's something really cool. If you check this out, it's called Touch Note. So you can take any picture and turn it into a postcard right from your iPhone, right? Of course, you need the internet to do all that. So it wasn't something I could do every day. But Touch Note worked pretty well for, you could write on the back of a napkin or something and have that put on the back so it looks like your handwriting. It worked really well.
That's really cool. I love that. All right, so I'm going to take that away. I'm going to use that. That's amazing. So, all right. So I got one more question for you. We're going to wind down. This is my last question. And since you were, isolated in the woods by yourself for extended periods of time, it seems like it would be the perfect time to see something that no one would believe you if you saw it. All right. So with that said, it got me thinking, what mythical creature, if you were to see it, would be considered to, in your mind, has the best chance to exist while you're out there in the wild, and you see it and you're like, oh my God, I knew it, right? So what mythical creature, according to you, is most likely to exist? Is it A, Sasquatch or Yeti? Is it B, the Loch Ness Monster? Is it C, the Chupacabra? Is it D, the Jersey Devil?
Wow.
Or is it E, a reasonable seller?
Oh man. Oh, that's a tough one. I love that little zinger at the end.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go with a Sasquatch.
I thought you would.
We have a lot of stubborn sellers in my markets.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't say E on that one. That would have been the easy way out, right? I wanted to pin you down. I agree with you. I think this, based on what you're telling me, all that open space, you're not seeing anybody out there. What if you are in Maine in the stretch that we're talking about, right? You could see a Sasquatch existing out there, I would think, never coming into touch with humanity.
There was a story in the news not that long ago about a man who lived in the woods for something like 15 or 20 years and was creeping into people's lake houses. And nobody saw him until they started getting Ring doorbells on there. And then all of a sudden his gig was up.
Well, maybe later in life that's something to aspire to for you, Kevin. Right.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, I mean, your story is amazing. I'm so glad we got to do this today. I love hearing about this. I could talk to you for hours on end about it because I have so many more questions, but we have to cut it off at some point. Thanks for letting us kind of share into your journey, your insight, just your perspective on how that experience was and how it now feels being back in society. So thank you for this.
Awesome. Thanks. It's been great sharing. It's like reliving, and it kind of closes the loop to share the connections with the real world. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's also nice to have you on the podcast. So, I'm glad that we could do this.
I only had to walk 2,000 miles to get here.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you really work for this one, I will tell you. So thanks, Kevin. I appreciate your time, man. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate it, Jason.
That was the podcast with Kevin McGillicuddy this week. And oh man, what a story Kevin has from his journey from March to July. I still can't get over how long he was out there in the wilderness by himself. An amazing feat that Kevin accomplished, and a few takeaways that I have from hearing Kevin's story. The first takeaway is that Kevin is prepared. And how does that work with our real estate business, right? Well, Before Kevin ever took his first step onto the Appalachian Trail, he was prepared. He had a game plan and he executed. The same should go for our real estate business. You have to have a plan. Do your business plan. Now is the time to think about next year. Write down your goals, have a business and marketing plan, and execute on that plan the best you can. Sometimes you're going to face things throughout the year, just like Kevin when he was on the trail, that calls for an audible, right? You have to make do with what you have in certain cases, and you may need to modify that plan as we head throughout the year of 2026. But the important thing is to have a plan, be prepared, so you don't get lost in the wilderness of your real estate business. Number 2, Kevin showed a great amount of tenacity and grit during his journey from Georgia to Maine. He persevered through the heat, through the cold, swollen feet, aching back, you name it. He even poisoned himself out on the trail and kept going. We have to show the same tenacity and grit in our own business. Sometimes things fall apart. We're having a tough year. You have a deal that you expected to close that doesn't. You go out on a listing appointment and unfortunately you lose out to another agent. We have to show grit. We have to show determination and make sure that we get up each day and do what we need to do to keep putting one foot in front of the other until we reach the goals that we set out to achieve. My last takeaway is about Kevin's mindset. And talking with Kevin, he's such a calm, reasoned, and optimistic person, and you can tell his mindset plays a huge part in him being able to achieve the things that he achieves. It would have been really easy to have Kevin walk away from that trail at multiple times during his journey. He was dealing with physical pain, he was dealing with sickness, he was dealing with hunger, he was dealing with fatigue, and Kevin just kept going. And I think a lot of that is his mental toughness and his positive outlook on life. Most of all, I think Kevin is grateful for the opportunity to take on a challenge like this, to be out in nature, to see the beauty and have such a reverence for the steps along the trail and what he saw, what he experienced. And I think how that translates to our business is that, we can get up every day and be grateful for having one of the best jobs in the world, right? We don't sit behind a desk. We're out there meeting people every day. We're forging new relationships. We have the opportunity to help people make their dreams come true. And I think that means something. And I know it sounds cliche and kind of hokey, but I am very grateful for what I have, for the job that I have, and for what I get to do each day. And I hope you feel the same way that I do. Well, that's it for the podcast this week. We will be back in another couple of weeks with a new topic, a new guest, and as always, if you want to hear something that we haven't covered yet, please reach out to me, jason.ostrowski@foxroach.com. And if you haven't liked and subscribed to the podcast yet or left us a review, please do so. It helps us to reach more people. Once again, this is Jason Ostrowski saying stay safe out there, stay selling, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast.